make sure our audio levels are decent before we start here. Okay. Our music is a bit loud. Get that way down. Howdy from Oklahoma. My wife's family is from Oklahoma. Teha types, yeah, definitely. Only because of the keyboard, I guess, but the layout's pretty ubiquitous. I would be lying if I said that I wasn't also a fan of Teha types, but the processes are pretty similar, I suppose. That is some glass. Oof. 15 mil Nikkor 3.5. I'm gonna leave the cap on here because there's nothing we're doing to the front of it, and there's no reason to expose it. So leave that covered up. Oh, we also have the NASA SpaceX launch countdown timer here, over here. Just because, why not? If you're not following that, then what's wrong with you? All right. So this guy is getting a D-click and a focus gear. Brandon, yeah, I mean, people could do their own mods. I mean, people have been modding lenses from the beginning of lenses, but I would definitely warn people this is not a tutorial. This is not a how-to. Don't get overconfident if you see me doing this. So, just fair warning. I'm not gonna stop anyone or say nobody can do it, but be careful. Proceed with caution. I gotta put a black background on there or something. Can't see the text. Yeah, this is a fantastic lens. It's not super popular because it's pretty slow. It's a T3.5. And when you compare it to more modern lenses like a ZF2 or a Milvis 15, which is an f2.8, then it doesn't look so good. But you're not getting this lens for the speed, you're getting this lens for the look. And that's something you won't get with a ZF2 Classic or a Milvis. Question about Sigma Cines, since you would be the best to answer. Why would you say that? Have you seen a huge difference in optical quality between the Cine version and the photo version? No. Nobody should see a difference in the optical quality because they are identical. In terms of optics, the mechanics are completely different. General opinions about the quality of Nikon AI-s. Non-AI. I mean, the image quality across the board on Nikon lenses is so varied. it's impossible to say that one line performs better or worse than the other. Can you turn your music down? Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the feedback. See if that works better. But yeah, so the AIS and the AI, really the only official difference is that coupling, the auto index coupling. In terms of the optical quality, it's not like to put more or less effort at a certain point in the different lines. This is pretty old grease. There was a lot of thread locker on the mount screws. I don't know if somebody serviced this and did a good job by reapplying the thread locker, or if it just hasn't been serviced in a very, very, very long time. Either way, it's in pretty good shape. Yeah, it's in decent shape. Most of the AIS and AI lenses were painted underneath the anodize, or over the anodizing, so they tend to get pretty beat up over time. But you know, you see like little scuffs, probably kind of hard to see, you need to catch a reflection. Stuff like that wouldn't have shown up with just straight anodizing, but since these are painted, you get little nicks, little dings and scuffs. So you can tell when an AIS lens has been cared for, because you won't see any of that. So this is in good shape. What about the optical quality of pre-AI single-coated Nicors? If that's the look you're going for, then they are fantastic. They're not particularly good in terms of specs on paper, as far as you know, distortion, resolution, contrast, all that. They're not going to compare to the AIS. But if you want a good vintage look, then they are fantastic options. Going to just keep asking you fun questions. Hey, that's why I'm here. I'm not here to sell you guys anything. I'm not here to you know, pitch you anything. I'm just here to hang out because we've been on lockdown for what, 2 months now. So normally I'm chatting with clients every week and, you know, going over all these mod options with them here in the shop. But now you guys are my audience. What would you say your favorite vintage lens is that isn't a popular option out there? That's a hard question. Favorite but not popular. I mean, it's not vintage, but people ask me all the time what my go-to lens is, and at the moment, so for the most part, I shoot my stills stuff on Fuji. I have a Fuji X Pro 2 that I've had from day one. You know, I had a X Pro 1, I had every X100 model, several XT models, but the X Pro 2 is my go-to. And the lens that I've had on that almost from day one was the Midicon or Zhongyi, depending on what brand you find it under, 35mm 0.95. And it's not popular per se, but it's definitely my go-to for that format and that camera. In terms of cine lenses for vintage stuff, that's hard. There's really no unpopular options. Everything's popular now for vintage. Even junk Russian lenses are popular. So I don't know that there is something that I could call my favorite that isn't popular. I asked because I had somebody ask me this question. I collect vintage stuff. What I recently have loved in the older series, one Comine manufactured Vivitar. Yeah, Vivitar, they did some really unique stuff that gets overlooked. Recently we had what was it? Vivitar, I want to say it was like a 180mm f 1.8. Huge chunkin lens, super fast, super telephoto. They had some really cool stuff. Can AI-s lenses be rehoused into PL mounts easily? Rehoused, yes. Easily, no. It would require harvesting the glass from the body itself and re-engineering all of the mechanical components. So, like, what TLS, actually, I don't know if TLS did that for the AI-s. I think Zero Optic is doing AI-s lenses, but it's similar. You're taking the entire core out of the lens and putting it into a new mechanical structure. Why do you prefer the Midicon over the wonderful XF3514? Because it's 0.95. Can't argue with that. Yeah, the difference in depth of field between 0.95 and 1.4 is significant. The 1.4 Fuji is great for autofocus stuff, but there's just no comparison. If you look at images shot on the 2, there's also no comparison in image quality. The 3514 is going to be way sharper, way higher contrast. There's really no comparison. They're different lenses for different purposes altogether. I've been building a set of vintage Chinon lenses. I personally really like them. That's unique. I have not seen anybody building a set of those. Good luck. The Vivitar is super rare. Yeah, I've seen maybe 4 of them ever. And that's because one person found it, and then they told someone, and that person found it and sent it in, and then the other person found it and sent it in. It was a domino effect for sure. But yeah, they're not common. Although, it did get released several different ways. Oh man, what was it? It was a Vivitar. It was also a... I can't remember the other name. It was something German-ish. I can't remember. But it's the same exact lens. It got released under 2 or 3 different brand names, not just the Vivitar. If anybody knows that, definitely mention it. Through Optic has a 58 Nikon. So the 58 was the sort of the attention getter to you know, hype up their Nikon AI-s conversion. So yeah, the 58mm has been out for a while, but they are doing the rest of the lenses. We don't rehouse them here. We only do our Cine-Mod like this. The rehousing thing, you either need a very, very loyal customer base that's willing to pay whatever for the housing, or you need it to be extremely cheap, like GL Optics or some of the other Chinese rehousers. We used to do a lot more rehousings, but when GL started releasing stuff, we spent more time answering calls and emails about why ours was 2 to 3 times the price than we did actually doing the mods. Yeah, that's gonna bug me now. I really want to remember the name of that other... I have it in my where is that? See if I can find it here. Oh, Vivitar, where are you? I don't even have it listed here. Where did I put that? I cannot remember. Oh, there it is. Berolina. B-E-R-O-L-I-N-A. Berolina. So 135 f1.5. That's what it was. Which is fantastic. I had a ton of notes about it. But yeah, it was a Vivitar. It was the Berolina. A whole bunch of different names. That's a rare one. That's very rare. So... you can find it under those couple different names. I can't remember what the third name was, but you're either going to find it as a Vivitar or the Berolina. What lube do you use? Different weights for different applications. Yes, definitely different weights for different applications. This particular one is our Pro 100. I forget which one this is. What is this one? Yep, Pro 100. I am. So, if anybody does want to do their home mods, this is enough to last most people's lifetimes. You think it's that rare, Brandon? Who asked the lube question? The tiny farm. Yeah, so for these particular iris movements, this Pro 100 is my go-to, but I would never use something like this in a focus helix or a cam for a zoom or even a focus. This lube is specifically for iris movements like this, where it's a lot of surface area and it needs to be viscous. I would never use this on threads. I need to change the background on this chat. That's obnoxious. See, that's too much now. Maybe it's just too small. Oh, that's terrible. It's not helping at all. If my desk was black right here, that'd be perfect. Here, I'll put this. Maybe that'll help. No, not really. Oh, I know what I can do. Let's do this super quick here. What were the other comments here? There might be more copies out there, but I've searched. Yeah. Yeah, and Vivitar is just a more common name than Berolina. What do we need here? We need like... Bear with me, guys. There's a herd of cats running around my parking lot right now. Driving my motion alerts crazy. Okay. Can I change the opacity? I can. Oh, there we go. That's what I wanted. How's that? Alright. That's better. Now you can actually read stuff. Okay, back to the lens. Brandon, I agree. Yeah, nobody's looking for this lens randomly. Like, if you know what it is, you know that it's also listed under Berolina and whatever that third brand is. So yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. All right, so that's beautifully smooth now. We have an hour and 48 minutes left until launch. Maybe that launch isn't as big of a deal in other places. They just showed, right before I started streaming, they had a heat map of where people were talking about the SpaceX NASA launch, and California and Florida were the biggest by a significant margin. And I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just because that's where SpaceX is? Alright, that's beautiful. I have some Spec Club helicoid grease that I've been using for the iris ring. Is it okay? I'm not sure what Spec Club is. Drop a link, maybe? I could take a look at it. There's only a couple of things that you really need to be concerned with. You don't want the grease to break down in temperature fluctuations, because then it can basically turn into oil and just seep into the lens where you really don't want it. You don't want it to wear out over time and become powdery, or dry up and become powdery. And it, the consistency is kind of, the viscosity is sort of user preference. So that's not terribly important. What one person considers too heavy, another person finds just right. So that part is kind of up in the air. Uh-oh. I'm missing a brush. It's a tad spongy. If it's spongy, that means it's probably too thick, or you're not lubricating the right parts of the lens. Look at that. That is all glue residue. Let's use a stiffer brush. Normally I'd toss these in the ultrasonic and let them sit there for a while, but you guys don't want to watch an ultrasonic. Uh-oh, Brandon. Watch your credit card. It's dangerous. Look at that. Brand new. This is not going to focus. Is it? Can you focus on that? Come on. Yeah, you can't really tell. It's perfectly clean now. Uh-oh. Is my nozzle clogged? I believe it is. There it goes. Almost. Oh, you know what? I almost put that back together. Maybe one day I'll send you a full Vivitar Series 1 set. Vivitars can be tricky, but yeah, that would be very cool. Acetone? Oh, for the screws? Yeah, that was acetone, if that's what you were asking. Hour and 38 minutes left. So I've been watching this all morning, and they loaded the astronauts on about an hour ago, so they've just been sitting in the Crew Dragon for probably almost an hour. Oh, I probably won't be on too long today. Today is ballet dress pickup for my daughters. I'll let this cool down. That was way too hot. My mistake. Alright, that can do its thing. No mount conversion on these today. Most of the AI-s lenses that we get in for Cine-Mod, customers ask for the EF conversion. But this particular client, I think, uses them on a Nikon mount camera. Not a Nikon camera, Nikon mount camera. Maximiliano, ask away. That is an extremely short focus throw. What is that, like, I don't even know, like 50 degrees maybe? From infinity to minimum? Wow. Which some people will probably be afraid of, but don't forget, with wide-angle lenses, your depth of field is so much deeper. You don't want a huge, 180 or 300 degree focus rotation. That would be a nuisance trying to focus that. You'd be racking your focus over and over and over to get very, very little change, practical change. With the Cooke Pancros speeds rehoused by TLS, what could be the compromises for a lens that went to that process? And how do they compare to the Pancro Classic that Cooke re-released? I don't know that there is a compromise. I mean, I guess the compromise is that your wallet is a lot lighter after the fact. But in terms of image quality and performance, the TLS stuff is purely an upgrade. And then the comparison between the original Pancros and the Pancro Classic depends on who you ask. I think they did a pretty good job matching the original optical design and the look, but there's a lot of DPs out there that like to say that they missed the mark and it's not the same, etc., etc. So it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be an exact copy. Even though the optical design is nearly identical, the materials are different, which provides a different look. So it's not going to be exact. But it's very, very close. Color matching change in the way the lens is. So the breathing will not change. Breathing is an optomechanical design characteristic that won't change unless you're changing the actual way that the elements move. The optomechanical design. In terms of color, that's a huge variable because the color can change significantly from lens to lens based on how it was cared for, where it was kept. Was it exposed to sunlight? Was it kept in a cool, dry place? All of those things are variables. So especially with the vintage lenses, they will vary pretty significantly. In that regard, the newer Pancros would actually be better because they can control that better. But I also know that Cooke took that into consideration and maybe compensated a little bit in terms of color. We had that issue with the Caldwell Chameleons, the Neo Super Baltars. They re-engineered the Super Baltars. They had the exact optical design, very similar to the Panchros. And the original 35mm Super Baltar was always much softer and much warmer than the rest of the lenses in that set. So when Caldwell redid it, he decided to stay as true to the originals as possible. And now when people use the Neo Super Baltars, some people complain that the 35 isn't as good as the rest. But that's how it was when they were original. So, you know, take your pick. Do you want a good new lens, or do you want to stay true to the original Super Baltars? You can't have both. Spec Club helicoid grease is lithium grease. Oh, okay. Yeah, we don't use too much lithium. You know, most of our stuff is low soid. It's a, you know, petroleum based, that sort of thing. A lot of our greases come from Germany. This is a German grease. We do use some heavy metal greases, but they're nasty. And, generally, we'll find those on like a zoom cam or a really high friction focus movement. It's not too dirty. This has been worn out a lot. It's very lumpy, more lumpy than it is clicky. How cost the full cleaning and revised Leica R lens? You don't want to make these live streams a commercial for our services. If you have service questions, just drop us an email. service@Duclos Lenses. But I'll tell you right now, in most cases, a cleaning of a Leica R can cost almost as much as the lens is worth, depending on what the going rate for that lens is. Yeah, Tiny Farm, if you're doing your own declicking on lenses like this, Leica R, Zeiss contacts, AI-s, I mean, pretty much any of the still lenses, the Pro 100 is the way to go. That's another rant I can go on about. You know, lens prices go down over time, and then they jump back up when they become vintage or super popular. But with something like Nikon AI-s, they're not super popular compared to Leica R or Zeiss contacts. So the prices are actually pretty decent. So when the prices go down, you know, let's say this lens has decreased in value over the past 20 years by 75%. That doesn't mean that the cost of our labor, you know, what we pay our technicians and how much time it takes to service a lens, that never goes down. So the cost to maintain and repair lenses stays constant, but the value of those lenses can decrease significantly. And it doesn't line up. At a certain point, it's just uneven and not worth servicing. You know, Rokinons are a perfect example. The Rokinon photo lenses that can cost, especially used, you can get those for like $100 or less. But to fix them just because the value of the lens tanked doesn't mean that our labor rate tanked. They don't go hand in hand. So there's always that threshold of, is it worth it? What do I need here? JCIS screws are fantastic and terrible at the same time. Do you ever compare Cook speed macros to spherical LOMOs, which in some focal lengths are based off of them? No, I don't. I wouldn't be so concerned with the differences in image quality. I'd be extremely concerned about the differences in mechanical quality. British engineering is pretty held in pretty high regard as far as mechanical goes. I don't know about electrical. But if you have a British engineered lens and then it gets taken apart and re-engineered by a Russian engineer, you're asking for trouble. It's not a good matchup. Do you know about Zelmas? Yes, I do know about Zelmas. The beautiful white lenses. They look just like that dragon pod right there. The crew dragon. Hour and 20 minutes left. For anyone following. I do know quite a bit about the Zelmas, but I have not seen, nor do I know anyone that has seen one in real life. Generally, companies like that try to get lenses to us pretty early on, either for service contract stuff or for like the ASC committees. You know, they want us to review them, or they want us to give feedback, that sort of thing. But I have not seen Zelmas stuff in real life. I can attest to that. If I have a set of 8 Rokinon, I don't use them much, but 3 of them have the focus barrel fairly stiff. By now it's not cost effective to send them. Right. So the Rokinon, like their regular photo lenses, are an unbeatable value. But they are practically disposable, which is actually not a bad thing for some people. I made a mess. I will say the Helios 44-2 is a great character lens. I can't argue with you at all there. The Helios lenses do have fantastic character. Do you know of any film that was made with Leica R? I know the Ozark 3 season. Oh, I didn't know that. For real? Ozark season 3 was Leica R? That's awesome. I'm gonna have to look into that. Hey, Bill Nye is on NASA's channel. Who else grew up with Bill Nye? Anybody? Anybody? Hey, Phil. What are you doing here? You should be playing with your Zhongyi. How's that iris gear holding up, Phil? I know you grew up with Bill Nye, Phil. All right. You adjusted it to the very rim of the edge. Ooh, be careful. If you get too close, it might pop off. I do have another solution in mind. I did some design work on it last night, and I do have a revision. So if that happens, let me know, Phil, and I can upgrade it. Yeah, Bill Nye is pretty much a national treasure. Phil, I might have to order one of those lenses for myself, but I don't use any EF mount cameras. I have an old 5D Mark II, which is like our test bed for modifications, and I have a handful of C300s just for testing stuff here, but I don't use them really. I kind of just want it to say I have it. I'll put it on the shelf right next to my 35mm. Mr. Fuji, yeah. I don't know, I'm getting torn right now. I'm a pretty diehard Fuji shooter, but the Sigma FP has been slowly pulling me away. I don't know if I'll miss the format. I do love that full frame on the FP. That's actually, this camera, well, you see both. The camera pointing at me is an FP, and then this one, the top down, is an A7R. Which way are you saying, Phil? I'll miss the APS-C of my Fuji, or I'll miss full frame? Ooh, the Blackwing. The Blackwing. Somebody always brings that up. I have played with the Blackwing. I wasn't super impressed. I like the concept. I like the endorsement from oh my gosh, I just forgot his name. Help me. Bradford. I like all that. I like that he shot certain projects with them. That was a fantastic marketing tool for them. It's kind of taboo among ASC members. You know, sometimes they'll pick a lens manufacturer and stand behind them, but then you're kind of beholden to that manufacturer in a way. But I would hope that Bradford picks the lenses that are right for his project and not just the Blackwing lenses because they have his name associated with them. Oh, that's nice. Oof. Beautiful. Look at that. Almost no. Hey, Jordan. You quarantined? Or, you know, at home? Oh no, I think you guys are open again. Sort of want version 2 of that camera. Phil, you will kind of get it. They have a firmware V2, so to speak, coming out soon that will have some pretty cool upgrades. I know you love the Fuji, but full frame 35mm of the FP is more appealing. Yeah, I just, the size and weight. Like right now, this has the 35. This is the FP on the with a 35mm f1.2, but this is almost double the size and weight of my Fuji X Pro 2 with the Midicon 35 0.95. So it's hard to argue that. It's really hard to argue that. I mean, when you have kids and you're, you know, packing up a bag to go somewhere, that X Pro 2 with the 35.95 is a dream. Even that, I mean, I wish it was a little smaller, obviously, but I understand the limitations of physics. Yep, opening, working through some backlog rehousing. Nikon and Canon FDs. Nice. Yeah, that's pretty much the same story with us. No visitors inside the building. Our staff has staggered schedules, and we're working more days now. But yeah, gotta do what you gotta do. Somebody, speaking of Zero Optic, Jordan, who was it earlier? Who was asking? Who was that? Somebody was asking about rehousing Nicors. I forget who. But pretty sure that's what you guys are focusing on now, is the AI-s conversions, if I'm not mistaken. I have these Nikon F lenses from the 60s. Yeah, so you have the AI-s, Phil. They did hold up extremely well because they were built very well. What's the top 3 lens set? The Duclos Cine-Mod. I'm not sure what you're asking. The top 3 lenses that we modify? I would probably rank it Leica R, Zeiss Contax, and then a toss-up between Nikon AI-s and Zeiss Classic and Milvis, like the newer Zeiss stuff, newer than the Contax. Huh. What time is it? 11. So we have almost an hour left until launch. Ooh, it's exciting. Oh, I didn't realize that was sticking up there. There we go, that's better. Not sure if I like this comment layout. Now the whole screen is shifted. We'll see. I gotta keep my keyboard out of the way too. It's obnoxious. Yes, Jordan is with Zero Optic. I believe he's their newest member. Jordan, I hope you're still here. We got questions. Oh good, he is still here. We've been kicking out the AS fast. 20, 24, 35, 50, knocked 58, 85, 105, and 130. That's pretty much what I'm modding right here. Nice. Yeah, Jordan is one of the youngest techs in town, I think. Started at Hot Rod, then worked at Sigma, and now he's at Zero Optic. Everybody, the whole industry of technicians, we all pretty much know each other. We've all been around the same block, so to speak. Well, this is pretty nasty. I should definitely give this a quickie scrub. Kind of hard to see with the lighting, but it's pretty gunked up. If you go into space, what camera lens combo would you bring with you? Ha! I like that. It's the modern equivalent of Desert Island lens. If anybody watches the Scott Balcom YouTube, Facebook, whatever interviews he's been doing, you know, he's had people on like the Diamond Brothers and Vince LaFerre, Mark Toya, all those people. And every time I catch one of them on, I ask them that same question. Pick one lens. What's your Desert Island lens? For me, oof. I don't know, man. I mean, I could cheat and say I would take a 24 to 290 just for the sheer range of options. Yeah, that's a tough question to answer. These are definitely very niche, almost mythical creatures. Thanks. Yeah, I used to get to go to set a lot more. When I worked at, I was the head of the lens department at Keslow for a while, before they were the multi-state conglomerate they are now, back when we had one office. And I used to get to go to set pretty often when I worked at Keslow. You know, tweaking stuff and little fine adjustments or something broke or whatever. But I don't get to go on set anywhere near as often as I'd like. I'm pretty much confined to my cave. Oh, the other part of your question. Thoughts on the Laowa The which is short for Out of Our Minds. For anyone that doesn't know, is a 21 to 100, 25 to 100, something like that. Cine, the first dedicated Cine lens from Laowa, and they announced it over a year ago. And they had a prototype at NAB and Cine Gear, and it was lacking. It left quite a bit to be desired, so they went back to the drawing board. They scrapped the launch of it and postponed the release and started redesigning it, which kudos to them. I know how hard that can be. We've seen a lot of products that started on the wrong path and a company was too invested to alter the course. So major kudos to Laowa for changing, delaying the launch and changing the optical design. That said, I have not seen the updated version yet, so time will tell. Do you know the same lenses are cheap past time and now are gold? Canon K35 in 2008 sold for $10K a set. Yeah. If I had a time machine, I'd go back and buy all the super speeds. We used to, back in 2005, anywhere from 2005 to 2010, maybe not that late, because that's when the Red came out. Anything prior to the Red 1. We would get customers bring in sets of super speeds that needed, some pretty significant care, and we would quote them a job to overhaul them, and they would say, it's not worth it. I'm just going to sell them for, 10 grand, whatever. And now you can't find a set of decent super speeds for less than $80,000. It's unbelievable. The Hasselblad lenses are not proven in space. The Hasselblad lenses that went to space were designed and assembled specifically for space. You can't just take a normal Hasselblad lens and bring it up into, low Earth orbit. It's not gonna function the same as the lenses that NASA sent up previously. But I wouldn't bother Hasselblad. No way. Yeah, let's charter the next SpaceX flight to the moon and pick up that the Hasselblad they left there. Yes, certain exposures. They were extremely limited on payload that they could bring back. So they took the film cartridges and left the camera and lenses on the surface of the moon. They are still there. Which is more valuable, moon rock or those Hasselblads? Ooh, that's a good question. you know, there's a whole moon full of moon rocks, but now those cameras are, there's what, 2 of them, I think. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, because they still had cameras on board as well, if I'm not mistaken, Jim Gennard owns one of the actual NASA Hasselblads. Oop. Just lost my mouse. Come back. "53 minutes left." I'll probably stream up until the launch and then call it quits so that I can help my daughters with their costume pickups. It's pretty sad. They have an annual ballet recital, and obviously they can't do it this year, but the costumes are already, you know, measured and ordered and everything. So we just get to go pick them up, and the girls have some nice costumes to wear around the house. What are the best places to find good cinema? I don't understand that question. Oh, lens. Depends on what you consider good cinema lens. If you're looking to buy new lenses, buy them from a reputable dealer. I said before, I'm not here to advertise or to be a giant commercial, but obviously Duclos Lenses sells cinema lenses. If you're looking for vintage stuff, either you know, come to terms with the hunt and acknowledge that it's going to be a process, or find a reputable broker like West Coast Cine Video or Lori Carson, those type of people that you can trust to find good lenses. Yeah, we might do a virtual recital just for like family, Jordan. I haven't quite decided. Ketchup cups. Yeah, these little guys. A lot of technicians use these. Where'd it go? I don't know where it went. A lot of our technicians use stuff like that to sort things, but for me it just takes up way too much space on my desk. So I don't bother. If I'm doing a big lens, like a giant zoom, and I have to separate, 10 different types of screws and other miscellaneous hardware, this will come in handy for sure. But for single declicking mods at a time, it's not necessary. Do you put the gear in a microwave? There's different methods for heating up the gears. We either use like a heat chamber, which is, there's different methods. You can use a microwave. Some people use a hair dryer for like the DIY people, but you have to be, I can't recommend any one thing because it completely depends on what material you're using. If you're trying to install 3D printed gears on a lens and you try to heat them up, you're gonna melt your gear. So I can't recommend anything specific without potentially getting in trouble. So this guy is Dunzo. Oh, and for the record, these are not 3D printed. These are solid black Delrin. We don't 3D print anything other than prototype stuff here, which we use a variety. That's what, I can never do this. That is a traditional extrusion 3D printer, and that is a Form 2 for SLA printing. But strictly for prototyping new products, we never 3D print gears, ever. Oh, this should definitely go back. Duclos Cine-Mod, the Sigma 18 to 30. Yeah, we do the zooms all the time, but we only do front ring, focus gear, and zoom gear. Ooh, that's some nasty grease. I'll give you guys a listen. Oh, it is so stiff at the closed. Ah. Oh my god, that's terrible. And got chewed up. That screw is. That's all beat up. That's pretty terrible. That's the other reason I try not to recommend that people do their own mods. I mean, anybody's welcome to do whatever they want to their own lenses. But we see more Zeiss Contax lenses come in for stripped screws because someone thought that they could do their own mods than any other Contax mods. So if you're gonna do them, go for it, but please be careful. Oh yeah, this is super dry, super chalky. That's nasty stuff. I cannot imagine what those astronauts are thinking right now. Sitting in there for over an hour. Come on, get out of there. Wow, this is completely dry. Yeah, 28mm for the AI-s and for the Contax seem to be the favorites. I think that's why they call it the Hollywood 28. Yeah, this grease was completely dried up. Super mucky. Did you like Ad Astra? I did. How much time do you spend to revise and clean one Leica R? Leica R's we usually quote between 4 and 6 hours, I think, per lens. took that out. Pretty nasty. Oh, that's all old grease. What was Ad Astra shot on? Wasn't that like Todd AO or something like that? Something crazy. Do you still send the Leica R for service to Steve's camera? No, we don't. For some of them, we still might. But for the most part, for most Leica Rs, we do them in-house. For service work. For the mods, everything is in-house. If you ask other service shops to declick or add a focus gear, they don't understand why. Camtech Astra Prime and Zeiss Master Prime lenses. What does that mean? Camtech doesn't make glass. Camtech modifies glass. If it's Camtech Astra Primes, it's probably rehoused FDs or the Ultra Prime project they did. They did a I can't remember what it's called now. They gave it a name. Or they had like their Falcon lenses or something like that. I can't remember. But it's all like GL stuff. Oh my gosh, 35 minutes. At some point I should turn the audio on. They are master primes with more flare. Okay. Likely strip coating. Yeah, that's par for the course. You want to look? Strip the coatings. That's what everyone's doing. Sooner or later, that fad will mature. Obviously, removing coatings does change the look of a lens, but it's not the end-all be-all of character. You can't just polish the front and rear element and say it's vintage. There's a lot more that has to go into it to achieve a consistent, tailored look. But if someone just has a set of lenses and the front element is polished, that's not a look. It's the equivalent of putting a cold air intake on your Honda Civic. Sure, maybe it sounds better and it looks cool when you pop the hood, but it really doesn't give you any performance. Canoptic 9.8 Duclos Cine-Mod this lens gear and PL mount. Do you know about this lens? I know a lot about that lens. The Canoptic 9.8 is very popular. It's a very obscure lens. It's also radioactive. Be careful. PL mount, I guess that would depend on what mount it's in currently. I think most of those were maybe standard mount. I can't remember. We could definitely Cine-Mod it, but there's only so much we could do. I don't think the 9.8 had a focus. Or am I thinking of the 7.5? Correct me if I'm wrong, but once you remove the coating, you change the light transmission of the lens, potentially making it slower. Yes, that's absolutely true to an extent. If you're polishing one surface of one element, the amount of light that you're losing is negligible in most cases. If you're polishing 5 surfaces on 5 elements, maybe you'll lose, I don't know, a quarter or a third of a stop, something like that. If you're removing the coatings from every surface, then yes, then you're gonna lose a couple stops of light transmission. Hence the Sigma Classic primes, where there are no coatings other than the outside surfaces, so the front of the front and the rear of the rear. And they go from what was a T1.5 down to a T2.5. So that's what you get when you have no coatings whatsoever. It's applying a LUT versus color correction in the styling. Most uncoated front and outer elements tested I've blank are very unappealing. Classicrons, yeah, so Jordan, that's exactly what I'm talking about. The Classicrons were a project that we did with the camera division. They started the same as what everyone was just saying. They came to us and said, we want to polish the fronts on our Leica Summicron Cs. And we said, great, why? And they said they wanted a look. I said, okay, well, if you want a look, it's going to be more than just polishing the front and calling it a day. And they said, okay, let's do whatever you think is going to work best. So we spent 6 months tailoring a look with a multitude of modifications, not just polishing the front surface. We did polish elements, but there was a lot more to it. So whenever somebody says, I want to polish the glass, I say, why? And if they say, because I want a marketing tool to say I've got uncoated lenses in my rental inventory, I say, cool, we'll do that for you. If they say they want a unique look, and they want something different than what everyone else has, and I say, great, here's what's involved. We've done a handful of projects like that were much more in-depth. And it always starts with, you have a baseline. You know, we pick one focal length, usually a 35 or a 50, and the client gives us reference examples, images, videos, whatever. And we make the modifications necessary to achieve that look on that one focal length. And then once we tailor it to exactly what the client wants, we use that one lens as the baseline for the rest of the set. And now that I'm talking about all this online, I guarantee that the other companies that offer polishing are going to offer a similar more in-depth service now. But I've never liked the idea of just polishing. It's not the right approach at all. "26 minutes. Oh man. Here's the trickiest part of this modification, and unfortunately the angle I have to hold it at to get this to work correctly is going to be obscure and you probably won't be able to see it. But if I don't hold it at an obscure yoga angle, then the linkage that I need falls inside the lens and becomes much more time consuming. Nope, it's not connecting. What you doing in there? I can do Saturday Cine-Mod and SpaceX launches every weekend. That would be nice. Just have them going to and from the space station every weekend. Nope, it's not connecting. Got 23 minutes left. There it is. I have the wrong tweezers for this. That's another problem. They're super fine point. And I need something a little grippier. Ooh. That is not what I wanted. I just launched it in there. There we go. All right. 20 minutes. Oh man. I'm definitely gonna have to stop when they do the launch and pipe that audio in. I hope you guys don't mind. There's that actuation. This is a good lens to show that on because it's such a fast aperture. Bam, bam, bam. So if anybody's not aware, yeah, it's just gonna say, Jordan, it looks like they're just fueling because you got that steam coming out, but they scrubbed the last launch, which was not Friday, Thursday, I think. Due to weather. But apparently there's a very, very, very small window between fueling and launch that they're allowed to cancel it. So basically there's some point of no return. I don't know the details of it, but I think last time they canceled like 10 minutes prior. Your clock is close, about 1 second slow. No, your internet connection is 1 second slow, Jordan. This linkage is not cooperating. If you were to re-grease the helicoids in AI-s lenses, would you use number 10? I don't know what you mean by number 10. Ingenue number 10? Oh my gosh, Jordan, I didn't know you played Kerbal. I've spent days in Kerbal Space Program. I wonder if I wonder if the ships I built are still in my game. I had a whole space station. I had you know, like international or interstellar travel going on. That was super fun. Kerbal 2? I didn't know that. What was wrong with the first one? I guess I just want more money. So yeah, it is definitely a time suck. If I'm not mistaken, they're past the point of no return now. Maybe Phil will tell me if that's the case. If they're past the point of no return. if it's go time. I don't know if I should live stream this. Like, what if something terrible happens? That's terrifying. Yeah, Jordan, I was pretty bummed when they pulled the plug on the shuttle program. And to boot, I missed the shuttle being rolled through LA or wherever it was. I can't even remember at this point. Man, this mount is pretty beat up. I don't know if any of that will clean off. The option within 10 to scrub. Well, they got a minute 45 until T minus 10. I feel like you should work with Alex on a shell recycling program. Ooh. It's not a bad idea. Actually, the hardware I would be most interested in, Jordan. For example, these mount screws are chewed up. I have some extras here, but I just brought my entire container home for my daughters to sort. So I don't have any on hand. I'll probably replace these on Monday. But yeah. That is a beautiful aperture movement. So much glass. Fun fact, every technician in the Duclos line, the Duclos family, started by sorting screws. My sister started by sorting screws. I started by sorting screws. My brother did it. So now, my daughters sort screws for me. There's some more of that brassing. If anyone here was watching last weekend, I was talking about the brassing that you can see on most photo lens mounts. So Nikon, Canon FD, Leica R, Zeiss contacts, all of them use the same style of brass mount with a nickel plating. And if the lens has been used a lot, you'll see, like right there, right here. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but it changes from this nice silver color to brass because it's wearing out that nickel plating, and you're starting to see the brass underneath the nickel. I should clarify though, that is a telltale sign if the lens was put on and taken off of the camera over and over and over. If the previous owner, if the original owner of this lens used it a ton, but it was the only lens on his camera, then you wouldn't see that brassing. It's strictly a sign of how often the lens was installed and uninstalled from the camera, so to speak. Four and a half minutes. Well, I think it's safe to say they're launching now, or today. Oh, now they have a countdown timer on the feed, so let me get rid of mine because that's very inaccurate. I'm gonna make this a little bigger now that we're watching that. Ooh. So close. Hot, hot, hot. Three minutes. Just in time to wrap up the 50. That's a 51.2 mod done. Can't quite see it. Everything but the EF mount. I would say 75% of all Nikon lenses that we do our Cine-Mod to, we also do an EF conversion. Okay, let's kill the music and pipe in the audio here. Why don't I see audio? That's weird.
Seconds to go till launch.
Here we go.
Ground gas closeout is starting.
One minute.
Falcon 9 is in startup. Dragon is in countdown. FTS is armed for launch.
Under a minute now, the FTS, the flight termination system, has been armed.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
SpaceX Dragon, we're go for launch. Let's light this candle.
Wow, this is like
T-minus 30
momentous.
seconds.
Stage 1 tanks pressing for flight.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX. Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
America has launched. And so rises a new era of American spaceflight,
Stage 1
and with
propulsion
it
is
the
nominal.
ambitions of a new generation continuing the dream. 20 seconds into flight, stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
T plus 30 seconds into this historic mission. Flying crew on board Dragon and Falcon 9, and look at them go.
Falcon power telemetry nominal.
Wow.
M1D throttle down.
We're throttling down to get ready for the period of maximum dynamic pressure. We're in the throttle bucket.
So first MECO.
Reports say all systems are go.
Oh, it's max Q. MECO's coming
Vehicle
up.
is supersonic.
We've exceeded Mach 1 on the Falcon 9.
M1D throttle up.
We're throttling back up to full power as we're through max Q.
Copy, 1 Bravo.
And we
Their
heard that one
tracking's a
Bravo
bit
call
off.
out. That's just the second abort
You can
zone
barely
that they're
see-
in.
we
They'll
keep it in the
continue
center.
to be
There
on
we go.
this until the first stage has done its job and they switch over to the second. At this point, Bob and Doug pulling about 2.3 Gs, 2.3 times the Earth's gravity, already moving at over 1,500 miles per hour.
We've heard the call out for MVAC engine chill. That's getting the MVAC engine ready to light. That'll come at about 2:44 into flight. Right now, everything continuing to look good. Next major event coming up is going to be the triple. We'll have main engine cutoff of the 9 first stage engines, stage separation, and then ignition of the second stage engine to continue to carry astronauts into orbit. Coming up in about 20 seconds.
M1D throttle down.
We heard we're throttling down the Merlin engines on the first stage. And we have MECO.
MECO.
2 Alpha.
Falcon stage separation confirmed.
There it goes.
2 Alpha. MVAC ignition.
All right, we have stage separation confirmed. The first stage beginning its flight back. The second stage being powered by that single Merlin 1D vacuum engine has ignited and is now carrying Bob and Doug into orbit. So they're going to continue under the power of this second
Stage
stage,
2 propulsion is nominal.
which will cut off at SECO, or second engine cut off, at about 8 minutes and 44 seconds into today's flight. So a little over 5 minutes to go still on this second stage. You heard the call out to Alpha, so they're now in the longest abort zone that carries them all the way from about North Carolina up the eastern seaboard almost to Canada. Things looking good though, getting good call outs, nominal propulsion on that second stage.
Well,
Bob and Doug continuing to make
I
their
don't
way
want
into
to
orbit.
speak too soon, but that looks successful.
Dragon SpaceX nominal trajectory.
Acquisition of signal in Bermuda.
SpaceX Dragon nominal trajectory.
All right.
All right, here in nominal trajectory, so
I'm
Dragon
gonna-
pointed in the right direction, continuing to make their flight uphill. Heard acquisition of signal Bermuda. That's one of the
I'm gonna
other
end my
ground
stream
stations
there, but
that
you
they're
guys should
using to
definitely
get
go over
telemetry and
to,
data back from this spacecraft.
Stage 2 propulsion is still
To
nominal.
NASA's stream, their YouTube stream. All right, guys. Have a good Saturday. Have a good weekend. I'll see you next Saturday.